Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Getting Started. Today, we're going to talk about the TradeStation desktop. Hopefully, show you some tips and tricks on the TradeStation technology that you're probably not aware of, and you can walk away, from class with something useful. So, some usual introductions. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the client training um, and education director for TradeStation Securities, and it's always a pleasure to talk about the TradeStation platform. If there are any questions that you have about the technology or things that you're looking to do on the platform, haven't found a way to do them, this is a great opportunity for you to ask the questions and get a conversation started. So welcome everyone. Good morning to all of you. It'd be interesting to know where you guys are connecting from. I am located in the city of Spring, Texas. Where are you guys located? You don't necessarily need the desktop open. You can, sit back and watch my presentation, although I know some of you prefer to simultaneously, do the things that I'm doing just as a practice. So it's all up to you what you want to do. You don't necessarily have to have it open. So I see many locations across the United States. Thank you guys for taking the time, out of your schedules to join me and learn a little bit about TradeStation. All right, great. Great having you all. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Um, Disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. For additional information on our disclosures, go to www.tradestation.com/important information. We also have some options disclosures and futures disclosures towards the bottom of the disclosure page in case those are assets that you're trading and you should be aware of the risks involved in trading those. Okay, let me switch over to my TradeStation platform. And we are going to concentrate on certain tools. I know that many of you have gone to the apps that are available or that are built into the TradeStation platform, and it is a little bit overwhelming, all the things that the TradeStation desktop can do. But we're going to concentrate on three main areas of the TradeStation platform that our traders use the most, and those are charting, scanning, and trading. There are multiple ways in TradeStation that you can enter a trade, but we're going to focus this presentation on the matrix. The matrix is a window that provides you a lot of information, and it makes it very simple for you to submit trades there. Okay, excellent. Welcome to class. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, in these type of presentations is how TradeStation desktop opens up. There is a TradeStation today type of workspace that opens up when you first log on to TradeStation. And if you look over here in the apps menu, you'll find the TS Today little button. So at any point, if you forget or you misplace the TS Today workspace, you can always come here, click it, and it opens up like this. So we have some useful information here on the left-hand side. We have some videos that you can watch. Right here in the middle, we have our social feed. And so whenever a TradeStation posts something on Twitter, we should have an update here. And over here on the right-hand side, we have upcoming events. Today is April 12th. So if I click here on April 12th on the right, you can see the class that we're doing right now. And you have any upcoming classes that we have in the schedule. Now, this same box that you see here on the right should be the same list of events that you find on the website. I'm going to have Manolo share the link to the events page right at TradeStation so that you can have it handy, maybe bookmarked, and you can see all the different classes that we do on a weekly basis. But you can also, come here to the TS Today workspace if you want to register for those. By the way, Manolo is my colleague. He works for TradeStation, and he's going to be moderating the chat. And if you need anything, sometimes a file or something we're looking for something, Manolo is going to be standing by to help us out there. So thank you, Manolo. TS Today should be available on 9. That's a good question, Gary. I was going to say it should be available, but maybe not. I haven't used, 9.5 in many years, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But this also gives you, the what's new. TradeStation throughout the years has changed the way that updates are applied. And we now do it automatically when you log into TradeStation. So when we detect that your version of TradeStation is not the most recent, we'll apply the update automatically. And over here on the bottom right, there's a box here that tells you what's been fixed, what's been added, and you can, be aware of the changes that have been made. Over here on the bottom left, we have a section for workspaces. I usually tell TradeStation users that workspaces are good if you're having some difficulty finding out how to set up your workspaces, how to set up your applications. If you need a little bit of help, the recommended or the recent workspaces is a great place to get started because it shows you sample layouts. For my classes, I usually start everything from scratch, and you can do that as well. You're going to find that as you become familiar with the software, you're going to like, your applications in a certain way, in a certain position. So those are things that you can customize on TradeStation and make the platform, really something that fits your trading style. Okay. How did I open it? I went to the apps menu right here at the very top, and you find the TS Today button here at the top as well. The session is being recorded. Manolo will give you the instructions how to get access to it. All right. Let me go ahead and open up a new workspace. Opening up a new workspace in TradeStation is very simple. I just look right here at the bottom. Everybody sees the TS Today tab. I click on the plus here on the right, and I have a brand new workspace. Now, if you notice, the tab says untitled workspace because I haven't saved it. I want everybody that's using TradeStation to become used to saving your workspaces, because you're going to find that recreating everything from scratch is kind of cumbersome and it uses up time. So whenever you have a good setup and you've customized everything the way you like it, save it into the workspace, and that way TradeStation remembers what you had open, and it should come up exactly the same way you left it. Okay, so let me go over here to apps, and I'm going to start off with a chart analysis application. Chart analysis is one of the buttons here. Every time you need a chart, you just have to go up there to apps and click on chart analysis, and it'll open up a chart window for you. This is Starbucks on a daily time frame, and I think my chart goes back 5 years. Now, there's a couple of things that I did on my chart to change it. TradeStation, when you first open up a chart, is a 5-minute chart, which is okay if you like to trade on intraday charts. But a lot of times, what I found is that I wanted to look at an overall price movement first. So I wanted to set my daily like the default settings. So every time I open up a chart, it comes up daily. Also, another thing that I did, when you pull up a daily chart, TradeStation gives you 2 years of historical data, which I found that it's very little, especially if I press the down arrow key on my keyboard. Let me show you what I mean by that. If I press the down arrow key on my keyboard multiple times, you're going to be compressing the chart and being able to see more historical data. If I do the up arrow key, it's the opposite. It expands. If you haven't used the up arrow or the down arrow keys on your keyboard, please find them on the keyboard, use them. It's going to be very handy for you to expand and compress the chart, okay? But I found that if I press the down arrow key, I have all this space here, the black space, where I don't have anything. And it's probably happening to you too, and that's because TradeStation gives you a limited amount of historical data just to make things load up faster and more efficient. But I found that I needed more historical data, so I made my historical request 5 years as a default. Now, that's just a personal preference. You may find that 2 years is more than enough, so you can leave it as is. I wanted to, load 5 years every time I open up a daily chart. So these are preferences that you can set as default. Let me show you where I did that. So first of all, I went to data and I went to edit symbol, or my shortcut, which is double clicking on the candle. All of the menus that you see right here on the top are sometimes accessed by double clicking and right clicking, which I find to be very useful shortcuts. So if I double click on the candles, it takes me to customize symbol directly, but it's the same dialog that I would get if I go to data and I click on edit symbol. Is exactly the same. So the two things that I did was I changed here my time interval, I changed my time interval to daily. I set my historical request to 5 years, and then I came here and I set it as a default. so that every time that you open up a new chart, it's already a daily chart and it's already, looking back 5 years. So depending on what your starting point is on chart analysis, whether you're using intraday, 1 minute, 2 minute, and also the amount of historical data that you want, you may want to set those defaults from the get-go so that you don't have to continuously request data or change the time frame the first time that you open up a chart. It's going to become very useful. So if you're looking at a 5 minute, I think TradeStation gives you 5 days of historical data. But if you like to look at 5 minute charts, but you like to load, 60 days from the get-go, maybe that is something you want to set as a default so that every time you open up a chart, it has those settings. All right. So that's why when I opened up the chart, it was a daily chart going back 5 years. All right. That's a long explanation there. But I wanted to, a lot of times we want the platform to be how we like it. And TradeStation excels in that area where it gives you so many features that you can customize and set as default so you don't have to, do everything repetitively. Okay. Stephen, if your platform looks different, you're probably using a different web trading platform. Remember that TradeStation as a broker has multiple platforms that you can trade on. The one that I'm showing right now is what we call the desktop, which is software that you download and install on your computer. Is the most sophisticated platform out of all the ones we provide. So if you want all the bells and whistles that TradeStation gives you, then the desktop is the platform that you want to be on. Now, we do have one that is web-based, which is a more simplified version of TradeStation. That's the one that you go to tradestation.com and you click on login at the top. That's web-based. It's different than this, but they're both good. I mean, you can use them both, but today we're going to concentrate on the desktop version. Eric says mine only shows the tabs trade and position graph, no apps tab. If you lose one of the tabs, just go to the view menu right here at the top, and you can make those visible again. Sometimes I lose the bars myself, but you can come here and click them just to make them visible one more time. All right. Excellent. Manolo, could you tell WD to probably refresh the browser so that he can get sound or check his sound settings? Yeah, it seems like sound is good for everyone. Oh, Eric. Oh, Eric figured it out. Okay, thank you, Eric, for confirming. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some drawing tools and some indicators, because that's essential for everyone that's looking at a chart and trying to analyze data. So drawing is going to be right here. All the drawing tools are there. So you have, analytical drawing tools like the Fibonacci retracement lines and so forth. So feel free to come here and use any of the drawings that you need. Some of them will require 1 click, some of them will require 2 clicks, and some of them will require 3 clicks in order to draw. If I wanted just to do a quick horizontal line, I could. Let me go ahead and click on horizontal line for a moment. Notice how my cursor changes and I can place that horizontal line anywhere I want. I notice that the price of Starbucks here is $106. And maybe, let me just open up my chart a little bit here. Maybe, I know that in the past few days, Starbucks has been up, but I want to be notified if it drops below 106. It's currently trading at 106.09. So maybe my alert will be triggered today. So because 106 was traded today, but I can click and drag my line to the price that I want exactly. I'm going to drag it here until I see 106 even. And you can see that I'm having some difficulty dropping it at exactly 106.1. I mean 106.00. And that may be a problem that you have when drawing things, but that's okay. What I can do is I can drop it as close to 106 even as I can. And then I can do the following. I can double click on that line, go to data, and I can enter the price exactly as I want it, 106.00, and then click OK. And then the line will adjust accordingly. So sometimes, depending on the scale, you're going to have a little bit of a challenge, drawing stuff exactly where you want them. And that ability for you to double click on the line and go into the data and enter the price specifically, I think it's very convenient. Okay, so the line is there. My line maybe is different than yours because I think I've changed the defaults. If you double click on the line, you can change the defaults as the style, the color, I like my lines a little bit thicker. I think I changed my color to blue. So those are things that you can change in your line if you want to. But what I wanted to show you here is that on a line or any other line, if it's more analytical, if you draw the Fibonacci, if you draw a trend line, whatever line you draw on the chart can be turned on for alerts so that it becomes hot. And as soon as the price activity crosses it, you get alerted. So I'm going to double click on that line, go to the alerts tab, enable the alert, and I'm going to say alert me once per bar, which means that any time that a daily bar touches 106, I should be alerted. I can use the global messaging preferences, which by default, I think it's just a ding and maybe a pop-up window, but I can really drill down and come here and configure and choose the sounds and the pop-up messages that I want, even some email, being sent to me. So once I click OK here, then that line is hot. I have an alert set up here on my chart. And as soon as Starbucks, touches 106, I should be alerted, which is great because now I can probably go here onto a different workspace, maybe look at, let's say radar screen. Let me just open up radar screen, which is the next tool we're going to be looking at. All right. And even though I'm looking at radar screen at the moment, I know that I've set up a alert on Starbucks, and it's going to alert me regardless of what I'm looking at. As long as I have the chart where the line is active and open, it's going to be monitored tick by tick. All right. So the same goes with any drawing tool in here, trend lines and everything you draw. A trend line, if I want to draw, let's say a trend line from this top to this top and watch the trading activity from those 2 points, or maybe, if I want to do these right here, whatever the trend line is that you're drawing, again, double click on the trend line and you have an alerts tab that you can turn on, make it very simple. All right. Let me click on the trend line and press delete on the keyboard. I find that very simple to do if you want to clean your chart. Okay. Let me remove my horizontal line. All right. Let me take some questions here. Any way to turn a watch list into a chart grid? Val, I think you're asking maybe some linking functionality so that you can cycle through the symbols. I'll show you that when we go to radar screen. Maybe if that's not the case, let me know exactly what you mean. Any way to turn a watch list into a chart grid? I'm trying to picture what you're trying to say, but not really sure what it is. Okay. Robin says the desktop version must be PC based and not for Mac. That is absolutely correct, Robin. The desktop version is Windows based, so you have to run Windows for sure. Yes. We don't have a Mac compatible TradeStation. TradeStation clients that use a Mac and want to stay on a Mac, what they do is they run Windows on a Mac in order to be able to run TradeStation on their Macs. What is the difference between a workstation and a new desktop? Great question, Blade. The tabs that you see right here at the bottom are called workspaces, and these are like small containers for your applications. Your desktops is a higher level organizational tool that allows you to create instances of TradeStation. So let me give you an example. Let's say that this desktop, with this TradeStation that I'm using right now, I'm going to set it up for equities. And I may have multiple workspace tabs at the bottom where I have my charting and I have my radar screen and I have my trading tools. But let's say, for example, that I'm also a futures trader, but I don't want to mix equities with futures. So then I choose to, okay, I'm going to create a separate desktop, which is a different instance of TradeStation, which is with its own set of workspaces, but this time I'm going to dedicate it to futures. I may have my watch list for futures. I may have my order entry tools for futures, and I can switch between, back and forth between these desktops and not have to, mix my workspaces together. Does that make sense? Another great use for desktops is if you have multiple monitors. And nowadays, that's become very popular. Everybody uses 2, 3, 4. I knew a TradeStation client that used 16 different monitors. If this is the case, if you have a computer that supports multiple monitors, you can have instances of TradeStation across all your monitors. Instead of, grabbing what was done in the past, you grabbed the application and you stretched it across multiple monitors. Now you can just open up a new desktop and you can have a unique TradeStation instance on each one of these monitors. So that's the reason why we have this desktop functionality that allows you to do this. But if you have just one screen, I would have my workspaces at the bottom, and use it that way. Most of the time I only have one desktop because I'm only showing one screen. But if you use multiple screen, it's great to have multiple desktops. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I was going to show you technical indicator studies, add studies. That's where you find everything in the technical analysis arena. Looking for MACD, Bollinger Bands, RSI, whatever it is that is popular in the technical analysis world, TradeStation probably has it. So you go to studies, add studies. One thing to keep in mind is that when you add a study in TradeStation, there's 5 categories. The bulk of all the technical indicators are going to be right here in the indicator. But just keep in mind that we also have show me's, paint bars, activity bars, and probability maps that you can use, and see what they are. One of the nice things about TradeStation is that we've created documentation on all these technical ideas, so that if you find like Bollinger %B and you want to know a little bit more about this idea, just click on definition and it'll open up the help files for TradeStation and provide you, a synopsis of what the indicator does and how it's being calculated and some of the inputs that you can put into that study. All right. I see a lot of activity here coming through the chat. So let me see if I can address some of these questions before it gets out of control. Okay. Let's see. Can I? Okay. A watch list can easily be converted into charts to show them like a grid, multi-charts. Well, Val, in TradeStation, there may be no conversion from a watch list to a grid, but if I'm looking at a chart here and I say, okay, let me go to apps and click on chart analysis again. By the way, I moved my chart analysis button accidentally. But if I do that multiple times, this is my other chart. So apps, chart analysis, apps, chart analysis. So if you're looking at creating a sort of a grid, you open up all the chart windows that you need, and then you go to the view menu right here at the top, and you have the window menu, and you have some arrange functionality. This is something that I do many times if I want to have like a grid of chart analysis windows, and I say arrange all. So now my workspace is organized in multiple chart windows that are all visible at the same time, like a grid. It does, require a little bit of manual setup. But just feel free to open as many chart windows as you need, and then you can use these arrange functionality so that it puts all the workspaces, all the chart analysis windows into its own spot. Then you can, tweak these if you want to, and maybe I want the ones on the right a little bit larger. And I can do that, very easily by grabbing the edges and moving them around. So that's something you can do very easily in TradeStation. Hopefully that helps, Val. Let's see. Yeah, Stephen says, I downloaded my TradeStation into a memory stick, but was unable to move the info to another computer. Yeah, I'm not really sure what happens during the download of the executable of TradeStation. So that's a little bit, beyond what I know. Maybe our technical support representatives may provide a little bit more information, but I do know that downloading the executable into a memory stick is not something that a lot of people do. I'm not sure if there's some checks that the download does to tie that executable with the computer that you're downloading it on, maybe. But I would, if it's an executable, I would just download it directly on the computer that I want to install it on. Yeah, not sure I have the answers there. I would recommend you talk to one of our technicians and find out why is it that is not able to install, okay? Can each separated workspace be separated to a different monitor or use a new desktop? Okay, Blade, these workspaces that I'm saving here, for example, this one with a 4 chart setup, I can right click on the tab and I can save the workspace and I can say, okay, this is my 4 chart setup. I save it. You can see how the tab has the name right here. Now, your question is, can I use this workspace on a separate desktop? For sure, I can right click on this tab and close this workspace right here, and then maybe go to a different desktop and reopen it. That's totally fine. You can organize the workspace tabs that you see at the bottom in any way that you want, and in a way that works for you. You want to be able to organize your workspaces in a way that makes sense to you and it's efficient to you. So if you're asking about clicking and dragging it to a different desktop, maybe that's something that the software does not support. But if you need a specific workspace like this one, 4 chart setup, you can close it here and open it again on another desktop. Eliza, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. Can you please show me how to put up the 50-day and 200-day charts? Let's go ahead and talk about technical analysis, because that's what we were talking about just a moment ago. Let me go ahead and remove some of these charts. All right, I have a chart of Starbucks right here. I'm going to go to studies, add study, and let's put a 50-day and a 200-day moving average. I'm going to scroll down here to my moving averages. There's about a dozen different moving averages in TradeStation. I'm going to use the one that says moving average 2 lines because I need a 50 and a 200. If you need, an additional, I know that a lot of people use a 50, a 100, and a 200. Then you may choose the 3 lines. If you want those moving averages to be exponentials, we have those down here. Let me choose the moving average 2 lines and put them on the screen. When you put indicators on the screen, they have a default parameter, but I can double click on that line, any of the lines, and edit the indicator moving average 2 lines. I'm going to make the fast length 50 and the slow length 200 as Alasia recommended. I'm going to click OK, and that's where my lines are. Okay, that's a 50-day and a 200-day moving average. One thing to keep in mind, though, the 50 and the 200 that I put in there refers to the number of bars or the number of candlesticks used in the calculation. In my example, I'm using 50 and 200, and it refers to days only because I'm using a daily chart, and every candlestick represents a day. So if we're using 50, that's a 50-day moving average. But if I change my chart to, let's say, 1 minute, those 2 lines are not a 50 and a 200-day moving average. They've converted themselves into a 50-minute and a 200-minute moving average because I'm using 1 minute chart. Does that make sense? So the parameters that you use in indicators refer to the number of candlesticks being used in the calculation. But the nice thing about doing it this way, let me go back to a daily. By the way, that's something that I haven't shown you, but you can type in a time frame. And I did it very quickly, and I didn't realize that maybe this is something you don't know. But if I type in 5 space MIN, take a look at the command line, 5 space MIN, and I hit enter, I'm looking at a 5-minute chart. And the next thing that I did is I typed in the word daily and hit enter, and now I'm back on a daily chart. So the command line is a great resource if you want to make quick changes to a chart, whether it is the symbol, the time frame, or the amount of historical data. Steven says, I seem to be unable to separate the trade bar from the matrix. I think you can disable it. So you can right click and hide it if you want, Steven. Once we are on the matrix, I can show you that. Isaac, to place a trade using the mobile app, I would suggest you watch our presentation on mobile apps, and that'll give you the instructions on how to do that. Manolo, if you're listening, please share the link right here in the chat of our Getting Started landing page that has all the archives at the bottom in case somebody wants a webinar on a different application than the desktop, which is the one we're using today, okay? Do we need to log into each monitor or just use the open and drag an application to different monitors? Nadim, if you're using one computer with multiple monitors, you just have to go to the File menu on TradeStation, Desktop, and create a new desktop. TradeStation recognizes your multiple monitor setup and it'll open up another instance of TradeStation on that second monitor. No extra login required. You are already logged into TradeStation. What you're doing is just creating another instance of TradeStation. Give that a try and let me know if that works, okay? So Steven says, trade bar for Matrix using 2 screens, I meant. I would like to have my charts on trade bar on 1 screen and Option Station Pro on another. Totally doable, Steven, technically correct. Okay. All right, so Will, if you go to Add Study and you only have 5 listed, again, make sure that you're looking at the right category. You're probably right here on Activity Bar. Make sure that you click on Indicator, that'll give you everything. So Stephen, can you click on a workspace and drag it to another monitor? That's something you cannot do. You can close the workspace and reopen it on another monitor. That's something that you can do. All right. Leonard is asking about an adjustable hour high-low marker. That seems more like a custom indicator. I'm not sure if we have anything like that, Leonard, but I can look into that. The command line, Rich, that I referenced just a moment ago pops up automatically. So for example, this is a chart of Starbucks. If I want to see a chart of Apple, I type in just on my keyboard. As soon as I start typing, the command line will pop up. See right here, command line. I didn't have to touch anything for it to come up. It shows up automatically as soon as you start typing any letters, all right? All right, excellent. All right, yes. Okay, Stephen, I'm sorry about that. You were telling me you can drag a workspace from a computer to a monitor. Okay, I haven't tried that, but it seems interesting. So dragging one workspace from one TradeStation desktop to another desktop, I haven't tried that. So thanks for letting us know that, okay? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the indicator itself. They have pre-programmed alerts so that you can turn on and get notified when something happens. So if you're looking at these 2 lines, like the 50 and the 200 that we just added here, and you want to know which ones are crossing right now, all you need to do is double click on the lines to go to the indicator, the customize indicator dialog, go to the alerts tab and enable the alert. I'm going to set mine to enable alert or alert once per bar and use the global messaging preferences. That's okay. As soon as you turn on the alert, then we're good. As soon as those 2 lines cross, I'm going to be alerted that, Apple is crossing the 50 and the 200, which could be very significant for many traders. And it's something that you may want to be alerted on. Now, this is just one single chart, Apple, and an indicator. What if you wanted to do a scan on hundreds of symbols and find out which ones are crossing right now? Instead of just having one chart and wait until it crosses, let's go ahead and look for the symbols that are crossing right now. Now, let me show you how to do that very quickly. I'm going to come here to this workspace where I have the radar screen. Radar screen, if you're looking to do any sort of scans like the one that I just described, is going to be your best friend. The functionality here is it's outstanding. I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to add a list of symbols. If you go to the data tab and you click on add a symbol list, we have some prepackaged list of symbols. We have the 3 popular indexes, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, the Dow Jones. If you want to drill down more into what's available, go to other symbol lists and you're going to find, list of symbols set up by industry sector, by indexes, and all that good stuff. I'm going to use the NASDAQ 100. And that dumps all the stocks that make up the NASDAQ 100 index right here into my radar screen. If I remove columns, for example, the bid, ask, high, and low, maybe columns that are good, but I may not need them for now. What I can do is I can highlight those 4 columns, and I did that by clicking and dragging, and I can press delete on the keyboard, and you can see how they go away. Very quickly, you can customize columns in radar screen. Like for example, if I don't want my interval to be right there, I want it to be, somewhere else, I can click and drag it and, push it to anywhere I want. Click the column header to highlight the column and then move it where you want it. So you can organize your columns very quickly as well. Something else that happened here is some snaking functionality. As soon as my radar screen had enough space to the right to display another set of another column of symbols, it does that automatically. I'm going to add an indicator here, and that's where radar screen is. That's where radar screen shines. The ability for you to use any charting indicator and put it right here on a list of symbols. We were talking about moving averages, right? And setting up an alert and looking for crossovers. When I come over here and I look at it 100 symbols, I can add that same indicator to 100 symbols. So this is like having 100 charts automatically being monitored with just one single application, which is radar screen. I want to click on the plus here next to volume today to add that study. That's just to add studies. You can do the same thing by going to studies up here and add study. And you can see that I have access to the same studies that I find in charting. I'm going to come over here to moving average 2 lines. I'm going to add it and move it down. All right, so I have my 2-line moving average right here being calculated. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to resize my radar screen because I want to have a chart right here on the right hand side. So let me go to apps, click on chart analysis. All right, let's put it right here to the right of this radar screen. I'm also going to link the 2 windows together. Linking is great because when you click on a symbol on my radar screen, the chart updates to that symbol. And you find the linking buttons up here, the S and the I. The S is for symbol and the I is for interval, just in case in those situations where you wanted to link intervals. Let's go to this with the symbol link, the S. So now if I click on ADP, for example, you can see how the chart updates, and I'm looking at ADP. I'm going to go to studies here on the chart and add the same study that I added to my radar screen, the moving average 2 lines. All right, so now I see the visual of the 2 lines on the chart, and I see, the calculated value right here in radar screen. But what I wanted to get to is that, yeah, it's fine that it's calculating the moving average, but what I'm interested in is finding out which symbols are crossing right now. And just to, keep this in mind, because this is just one simple technical idea, which is the moving average. And I'm just using it as an example. But you can use any technical idea and scan hundreds of symbols and find the ones that are, meeting that criteria. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to scan the 100 symbols that are in the NASDAQ 100, and I'm going to find the ones that are crossing right now. I'm going to right click on the column header here in my radar screen, and I choose the column header because you notice how it highlights the whole column. So if you want to make changes to all the symbols, just do it at the column header level. So I'm going to go here to studies, and I'm going to select edit moving average 2 lines for all symbols. You see, it says all symbols. And from here, I'm not going to change the parameters. I'm going to leave them alone. I'm going to go to the alerts tab, and I'm going to enable the alert. Now, in this example for radar screen, I'm going to choose alert continuously. And, I sometimes use continuously with a little bit of awareness that if you use continuously, you're going to be triggering alerts tick by tick in some situations. And sometimes, that could be a problem. So when I do alert continuously, I usually set my my message center to none. I don't want any pop-up messages. I don't want any sirens going off. I just want to turn this into a visual alert, or more like a filtering type of alert. So I'm going to set it to none. I'm going to click OK, and then my column is turned on for alerts. I'm not sure if you noticed what the difference is, but I see some markers on the right side of that column. I see yellow little markers or orange little markers. Those are, alert enabled, but for some I see red alerts. Now, one thing that I didn't match was the time frame. If you guys look over here on my radar screen, my interval says 5 minutes, which is the default interval. Now, my chart over here says daily. Now I can change my chart to a 5 minute so that I have matching moving averages, because if you notice on my chart, I have ADP. Let me open my chart a little bit more so you can see the difference. So my blue moving average, which is the fast, is 216.41. But if I look at ADP here, the blue is 216.37. So there's a slight difference between the moving averages calculation, because one is using 5 minute data and this one's using daily data. So I'm going to change my radar screen to use daily data so that I have matching time frames. How do I do that? Well, again, I don't do it here on the interval. I do it here on the symbol header. So click on the symbol header so it highlights all the symbols. And maybe you can use a time frame. Sometimes I do that if it's a daily or something that shows up here in the menu. But if it's not in the menu, you can customize it manually. But here I'm going to choose daily. Now, if I look at ADP, the values here, let me open this up again. For ADP should match this, and they don't. Oh, I know why. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I did something wrong. I know that I'm looking at the values here for ADP, and I'm seeing this blue one, 215.72 for ADP. That does not match the 216.41 that I have here on the chart. The reason for that, if you guys notice, is that I added the moving average exponential 2 lines to my radar screen. Mistake? Yes. And sometimes you sit there and you scratch your head and you say, well, what's wrong? No, it's because my chart has simple moving averages. So let me go and remove this from my radar screen, click on the plus one more time. And here you go. That's the mistake right here. Moving average exponential. What I wanted is this one right here. Moving average simple. Let me go ahead and add them, move them down. All right, 2 lines. I'm going to right click studies and do the same thing. I'm going to turn on the alert. All right, continuous, no sounds. There we go. Now we're cooking. So now I see a few symbols with a red marker. For example, here I have lucid group. If I click it, you can see how the 2 lines are crossing right now. Here's another one, Marvel. I click it, you can see how the 2 moving averages are crossing right now. So great way to look for symbols that are, matching a, meeting certain criteria. If I want to filter my radar screen and only show the symbols that match the criteria, I can do this. I can go to the drop down, select moving average 2 lines, set it to the alert, and true. And that's it. It hides everything else. It only shows me the symbols that are triggering the alert in real time. And out of the 100 symbols that make up the NASDAQ 100, there are 3 symbols that are crossing, the 2 moving averages. These are default parameter moving averages, though. I believe it's 9 and 18, the parameters. If you're looking for something like what one of the, attendees here suggested, like the 50 and 200, that is certainly something you can set and look for that specific criteria. Not only on moving averages, but if you're looking for overbought, oversold, if you're looking for a trending type of markets using ADX, if you're looking any sort of technical calculation, you can put it into radar screen, and radar screen will do the work. We'll do all the calculations and filter your list of symbols and show you the ones that are giving you or matching the criteria. Okay, let me go ahead and get some questions addressed here. All right, start here. Anthony, can you demonstrate the closing and reopen on another monitor? Sure, I can. I can do that very quickly. So for example, the 4-chart setup that I saved earlier, I can right click, close the workspace. I'm going to say no to save the changes. I'm going to go to File, Desktop, and open up a brand new desktop. Now, since I'm working from a 2-monitor computer right now, my desktop opened up on my second monitor. I'm going to drag it over on top of this one. So this is my other desktop. Let me resize this. So this is my brand new desktop. Everybody sees it. I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to go to File, Workspace, or maybe Recent Workspace, because I used it recently. Recent Workspace, and here it is at the very top of the list, 4-chart setup, and it's opening it here on a brand new desktop. So if this were on another monitor, that would be a way that I would, move one workspace. I know that another user suggested that you can click and drag. Let me go ahead and try it. So I'm going to put this desktop on one of my monitors, and I'm going to drag this 4-chart setup and put it right here. No, cannot be done. So you cannot click and drag workspace tabs from one monitor to the other. That's something you cannot do, but you can close it and reopen it again. So give that a try. All right, let's see. Did I close my TradeStation? Oh, here it is. Okay. Demetrius is asking how to add row for a title to separate index and ETF, for example. If you want to add a row, let me go ahead and remove this filter. That can be very easily done by right-clicking wherever you want to insert it, go to data and add either a label row or a blank row. That's if you want to make separations on your list of symbols. Okay. Richard says, when I try to add mom to line, it's an account not enabled for this. I'm not sure, Richard, what could be the problem. Not enabled could be the data that you're trying to use. I'm not sure if your account is entitled to that specific data. But yeah, that would be an issue that needs to be addressed by technical support. So give them a call and see what's going on. WD, you may not be looking at the desktop. So if you're using the web-based version, that's a different trading platform. We're using the TradeStation desktop. I think that's something we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. TradeStation gives you multiple trading platforms, and sometimes you may just be aware of one, which is the online version or the web version, where you go to tradestation.com, you click on login. This is a different one. This is the desktop, is the one that you download and install on your computer. How to put ATR low and high on a chart? Well, Anthony, if you go on any chart, if you go to studies, add studies, you're going to find the average true range indicator. Here it is. Now, if any other variations in the calculation of average true range can be created into TradeStation. And that's something that I also want you guys to walk away with, that, everything that we built into TradeStation, it's great, but you can take it further and modify it and make it the way that you want it to be. TradeStation has a proprietary programming language. We call it Easy Language, that allows you to create custom studies and modify the ones that currently exist. All right. How did you get that chart next to radar screen? Again, we just resized, the radar screen to give my workspace some space on the right. And then I went to apps and I clicked on chart analysis. Simple to do. The recording will be available. Manolo has been sharing where that's going to be. Manolo, if you can share those details again. Stephen, can you explain again what the moving averages mean on different time charts? Yes, when you use moving averages, and not only moving averages, this applies to any technical indicator you use on charting. For example, here I'm looking at Marvel and I'm looking at a daily chart. When I customize the indicator and I look at the parameters here in the inputs, I see a 9 and an 18. So don't be confused about what that represents. The 9 and 18 is not days. It's actually number of candles or number of bars being used in the calculation. So the fast is going to use the closing price of 9 bars, and the slow is going to use 18 or the closing prices of 18 bars. Now, the bars or the interval determines what that means. On this Marvel chart, if you look, I'm using daily bars. So technically, this 9 represents 9 daily bars, and the 18 is 18 daily bars. So on a daily chart, yes, those are day, like 9-day versus an 18-day moving average. But if I change this to a 5-minute, now I'm not using days, I'm using 5-minute candlesticks. So instead of using 9 days and 18 days, this is using 9 5-minute bars and 18 5-minute bars. So that's the difference in how the technical studies calculate, and something that everyone that's using TradeStation should be aware of. All right. All right, Stephen. But Stephen, even if you drag the actual application from their title bar, you cannot move them outside of the workspace. That's something you cannot do, or at least, that's something that that's my understanding. So, because I think the question was, can you drag one application out of a workspace and put it on another? Nadim says, when we open 2 desktops on 2 monitors, can we still attach the matrix to each workspace and trade on both desktops? Yes, totally fine, totally acceptable. You can open up multiple matrix windows on those multiple desktops, and whatever you do in one will be reflected on another, if they have the same symbol, and it'll happen automatically. That's something you can do, absolutely. All right. Stephen, why 9 and 18? Those are just default parameters. I'm not really sure what, what the thinking process was by selecting 9 and 18, but those are just default parameters on those 2 moving averages, but they can be easily adjusted. Demetrius says, can you put a 60-minute simple moving average on a 5-minute chart? Yes, and that requires a little bit of multi-data charting. You would have to, and let me show you that very quickly, because I think that's something everybody would benefit from knowing how to do. If I open up a chart analysis here, all right, this is Marvel. Let me set it to 5-minute. 5-minute chart of Marvel right here. I'm going to go to data and add a symbol. TradeStation users can add up to 50 additional data sets to one chart. I'm going to add a symbol, and I'm going to use Marvel again, MRVL, and I'm going to plot it. Now you can see how my chart is divided in 2. And I can take this 5-minute and turn it into a 60-minute. Everybody sees that? You see how the candles change right here at the bottom? Because now it's trying to align the 5-minute with the 60-minute. But now if I choose a moving average, one line, and I prompt for editing, right here on the general tab, I can choose what data to base the study on. I can base it on the 5-minute Marvel, or I can base it on the 60-minute Marvel. So my inputs then will apply to the 60-minute. I'm going to click OK, and there you go. Now, if I want to put that 60-minute on top of the 5-minute, I just click and drag, and there you have it. Okay. So those are things that you can do on TradeStation very easily by creating a multi-data chart. All right. Eric, if you want to link the 2 windows together, you have to make sure that the S at the very top on both applications are set to the same color. See, I just clicked on the little S and turned it into, I think the default or the first color is green. If you need multiple colors, you can click on the little drop down on the right-hand side, okay? All right, so let's go over here to my matrix and show you some trading functionality. I know that we're running out of time. I wanted to address some of the questions that were coming in the chat. So let's go here to the matrix and show you some simple functionality. My font here is a little bit out of control. Let me go over here and go to settings, window. Sorry. Oh, come on. What is this? Some of my toolbars here are kind of whack. So let's go here to settings and then reset the toolbar. Go to window. Okay, font. Yeah, I have an issue with the font size here in my TradeStation. Okay, so that's a little bit better. So this is Marvel. Let me resize the columns here. I don't have a position open. You can see that it says 0 up here. The last traded price of Marvel is $39.80. All right, here's the trade exchange, the bid size. There's a lot of information up here that I probably don't need. You can clean that up if you want to by just going into the settings like I did here. So settings and go to columns. If you go to the quote bar, for example, I don't need the trade size or the trade exchange or the ask bid size or bid. I can remove those if I wanted to. So that simplifies the view that I have right here at the top of my matrix. I only concentrate on profit and loss. So this is my account number. You can see that I'm connected to a simulator. And here we go. So if I wanted to trade Marvel, I know that the last traded price is $39.86. You can see it right here in gray. You also see what's called level 2 or market depth. So the numbers that you see in the blue and the red, it's an aggregation of all the different orders that are waiting to get filled at those prices. And sometimes this information can be used as market sentiment indicator as to where the pressure is. Like, for example, right here at $39.74, we have 1,000 shares being bid for. So that could be multiple orders. In fact, the number that you see in parentheses is the number of market participants that are in there. ECNs, market makers that are grouped into that cell. So now we have 1,000, we have 1,300. We can see the number changing because, anybody can withdraw their bid at any given moment, but that gives you what is the interest at each one of these price levels. Let's suppose that I want to buy Marvel at $39.75, but I want to buy 1,000 shares. I'm going to change the quantity here to 1,000. All right. And if I want to buy at $39.75, I just hover over the blue because that's where the buyers are. And I just click and that sends my order to buy 1,000 shares at $39.75. It's a very visual thing. And I like to use the matrix for that. In addition to the matrix, I like to have a chart here on the right-hand side because you also want to see how your orders relate to market activities. So let me go ahead and put a chart here on the right-hand side. Let me turn this into a 5-minute chart. And I'm going to also turn on something that I turned off, which is account orders and positions. This is something that is on by default. And when you turn it on, let me do it for the right account. I believe that I'm trading, maybe this one. I just have multiple trading accounts in TradeStation, and I didn't realize which one I traded. Okay, so this is 33. So settings, account orders and positions. It was this one. All right, so that's turned on. I'm not sure why I don't see the order there, but okay, we'll figure that out later. So now you can see how the price is moving away from my order, But notice what I can do very quickly. I can change my price from 39.75. I'm going to push it up to 39.85 by clicking and dragging. And I can do that very quickly. Notice I just clicked and dragged the order, and that generates a cancel replace. Oh, there it is. Order filled. I did get filled at 39.85. You see that horizontal blue line, and you also see my information here on the chart, which is what I was looking for earlier and I wasn't seeing. That's my position, 39.85. And I can see my real-time P&L here on the left as well. If you wanted to set a profit target, let's say that I want to, if it goes to 200, I want to sell. I can do that very quickly by clicking on the 200. That's my selling transaction right there. Notice that it's reflected on the chart automatically. So all these order entry tools are linked automatically. So if you do something on one, it gets automatically displayed on the other. Let me go ahead and cancel that order. Canceling orders is a breeze here. You just have to click on the box and that cancels the order very quickly. If I want to do a profit target and a stop loss simultaneously, I use the OCO functionality. If you're not familiar with OCOs, it's a way to send multiple orders together, linked, so that if one gets filled, the other side gets canceled. It's something that every trader should know how to use. I'm going to go here to the template and choose a one limit, one stop. This is going to create a profit target and a stop loss setup. I'm going to click on the ellipsis just to figure out, the distance. Here's the price offset. So for the limit, I'm going to set it to 25 cents. And for the stop, I'm going to set it to 15 cents. I click OK, and I place the OCO using the button here. And here we go. Now we see the profit target and the stop loss right in our chart. We also see it here in the matrix. If I scroll up or down, you can see my profit target and my stop loss. Let's say that I want to make my stop $100. I just have to move the stop and push it up. And there we go. It gets reflected here and it gets reflected here. So yes, the matrix is a great way for you to place the orders. Also play a little bit with market depth and see where the interest is, market interest, if I want to clarify that. And you can also use these buttons on the trade bar to adjust your orders if you have to. Let me go ahead and take some questions from the chat here because I want to make sure that all your questions get addressed, okay? From Leonard, matrix question. How do you add the buy, ask, sell, ask buttons and adjust the size? How do you adjust the size of the trade markers on the charts or turn them off? Okay, for the matrix, if you want to adjust the size is right here in the quantity. Now, buy, ask, sell, ask. Not sure what buttons are you, because we have a buy market, sell market. So you want to buy at the ask or sell at the ask. For that, if you want to do that, we don't have a hit. Buy at the ask would be something you can access here on chart trading. So if you enable chart trading, which is this little button up here on the chart, you have a take and hit, which are two buttons that the matrix doesn't have. Take is buying at the ask and hit is selling at the bid. So kind of crossing the market, but still using a limit order for your order. So that's something you can do. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for, Leonard, but that's something you can use on the chart trading tool, not on the matrix. If you want to adjust the size of the trade markers, for example, any of this information that you find here, just go to the settings menu of the chart analysis and go into account orders and positions. Here, not only can you turn it on or off like I just did by checking the checkbox, but you can go to the settings tab and change, the look, the style, and anything related to those markers, okay? Chris is asking, what does the number in parentheses mean? And I suppose he's referring to the number here in the red and the blue. And those just are the number of market makers and ECNs that are grouped inside of that cell, okay? So that you have an understanding that it's not just one trader offering that size. It's just a group of people that are inside that cell. How to create a symbol list. On radar screen, let me go back here into radar screen. You have the ability to add multiple pages. If you look at the bottom, I have a page 1. If I right click, I can add a blank page. Now, symbols can be added manually. So if I type in Disney, MSFT, INTC, I can type those symbols manually. If I want to do some futures like add ES or add NQ or add GC, these are futures contracts. If I want to do options, I can also do that here. So symbols can be added one by one into a radar screen page, or you can go into the symbol list as we did earlier and use one of those pre-packaged list of symbols. But if you want to do something custom, you can do that here. You can add, I think we showed this label row, but these are, futures. You can add another label row up here, like right click data, add a label row, and then double click where it says label row and label this stocks, very simple to do. Order fill. We got filled, we got stopped. Either we got stopped or we hit our profit target here on our orders. Nadine is asking, can you please explain how to use the axis tab on the top right? Yes, that's referring to the matrix. There's an axis increment right here on the matrix, which is helpful when you're looking at stocks or futures that have a high value. Let me switch my symbol here to ESM23. Oh, I did it on the chart. Let me do it here on the matrix, ESM23. All right, so the value is 41.28.50 at the moment. The axis increment will squeeze the time frame of the prices so that you don't see every quarter of a point. And that sometimes helps if you're trying to set profits and targets a little bit higher than 2 or 3 points. Let's say, for example, that we want to, let me buy at market here. Order fill. So we get filled at 41.26. Let's suppose that I want to set a target of 14 points and want to do 41.40. Sometimes I can scroll up and down and find the price that I want, but using the axis increment, you're changing the way that the prices here are listed. If I change it to 50 or 0.5, notice that it removes the quarters of a point and you see 50 cents or 0.5 increments. And I can change it to 1 and notice that these are whole dollars. Of course, you lose the precision, but at least, I can come here and say, I wanted to set a target of 41.40. So I want to sell right here at 41.40. That's our selling transaction. You can see that it falls right at 41.40 and it just squeezes the prices in your matrix. Hopefully that is a little bit more clear now. Steven says, sometimes I get the order failed voice and sometimes I don't. I think that my monitor connection somehow discontinues the sound. Can I fix this? Stephen, interesting because I haven't seen order failed play just sometimes and not others. I would get, one of our technicians, take a look at your system and see what could be affecting, the order failed voice alert. So that's something that is built into the platform and it should always come on. So if it's not coming up every single time, there's something blocking it and our technicians can help you with that, okay? WD, greetings, Mr. Nava. Greetings to you, WD. My URL reads as such, TradeStation.com platforms and tools. Desktop. Yeah, that's not sure. Not sure what you mean by that, WD. Please give me more details. Okay. Blade, I've struggled to have the simulated system function properly. I wonder if the live version is different. Is Option Station Pro different for placing orders on the matrix? Good question, Blade. The simulator was created with the intention of you practicing, the functionality and become familiar with the trading tool before you use your capital. There are going to be some differences between between how the simulator behaves or handles an order and live setting. we've tried to create the simulator as closely as possible, or to imagine, as close as possible the real world situation. But sometimes, that's almost impossible because, I mean, the live market is where the real action is, and sometimes order behavior, it's going to have its own characteristics. But we try to make both environments as, close as possible. If you're seeing something really off with the trading simulator, maybe it's time to let our technicians know. I know that sometimes we have to reset the trading or the simulator so that the trades are filled properly. But a lot of the issues you find on the simulator are not going to be visible on the live account. Okay. Eric says that his doesn't have the parentheses. Remember that level 2 is data that is added to your TradeStation upon request. So you have to actually go in there and add it to your account. If you don't have it enabled, then you won't see the data on the blue and on the red. For many of you, you may just see one number in the blue and in the red, which is the inside bid and ask. In order for you to get the full market depth, this is data that has to be turned on, and you have to request it either talking to one of our client service representatives, or you can do it online if you go to tradestation.com, log in, and go to the client center. Okay. How can I sync the trade manager positions window to a chart below so that clicking on one of my positions changes the chart to that security? Thank you for that question, Rich. So let me go ahead and open up my trade manager, and I'll open up a chart here. And I'll say window, arrange horizontal. And what I want is, let me go here to my positions. All right. What I want to do is I want to link the two windows together. It's similar to what I did in Radar Screen. I click on the S here for the chart, and I click on the S here for the trade manager. And now if I click on Verizon, for example, which is at the top of my position list, the chart changes to Verizon. Okay. If I click on SPY, then my chart changes to SPY. That you can do on any application. Use the linking buttons at the very top. Steven says it's an incredibly complex software. I think you did a 4-year college course on it. Steven, I must admit that yes, there is a learning curve to using the TradeStation desktop. The TradeStation software has been in development for the past 40 years. So you can just imagine how much our developers have put into the software to satisfy a lot of different trading styles, because everyone will use some applications. I rarely see a TradeStation trader that uses all of the applications that we've built into the software. But there is a learning curve. You may find that some applications use more than others, and those are the ones that you're going to become more familiar with. The reason why we created a software as sophisticated as this is to do that precisely. You serve different appetites and different trading styles out there. Neil says, I'm new to TradeStation. Is there a simulator platform for me to use to learn all the tools that Jesus is showing before I actually execute the real trades? For sure. Yes, Neil. Every time you log into TradeStation, you're going to have the option to log into the real account where you have the real money, or to log into the simulator. As you can tell, I'm connected to a trading simulator. How can you tell? Well, look at my account number right here at the bottom of my TradeStation. Start with letters SIM. If I go to my trade bar and I look at the account number, you can see that the account starts with the letters SIM. So when you log in, just watch out for that little button that says simulator, and you can access the simulator so you can practice everything before trading your real money. All right. Let's see, from RB, when you set things up on paper trading simulator side, can you use the same settings or import them on the live side? One of the nice things about TradeStation RB is that my setups everything that I create, even connected to a simulator, will remain exactly the same when I switch over to the live setting. So there's no adjustments to make. There's no workspace to recreate. Everything remains the same. What I'm switching in the background is which account am I using? Am I using the simulator or am I using the live account? But everything else should remain exactly as you set it up. Blade says, it makes me nervous to be able to switch to live trading. Good to know. Okay, good, Blade. And always look at the bottom corner of your TradeStation. Everybody sees there's a blue indicator at the bottom right. As long as you see blue on sim, that's the simulator. If you were connected to your live account, that would be a green, like a green solid circle, and it would say live. So always be aware of which environment you're connected to, because if there are any errors or any trades that you place by mistake, I mean, that it's difficult to correct. WD says, greetings. I'm not sure how to download and sign in the desktop version. When I open tradestation.com and enter the system, asks me to log in. The options is web trading live or simulated. In order to access the desktop version, let me see if I can pull up a web browser here. Give me just a moment. Okay, so this is tradestation.com. Oh, I didn't realize that I'm front center right here in the TradeStation website. Let's go and go to login, right? And you have to, if you use the web trading live or web trading simulator, this is the web version of TradeStation. This is not the desktop. So if you don't have the TradeStation desktop, go into the client center. Once you log in, this will ask you to log in. You have to use your TradeStation username and password. But once you log into the client center, look at the top, you're going to see a green yellow bar. One of the tabs will say download software. That's where you need to go in order to download the desktop. All right, let me know if you can find it. All right. WD, do you have a webinar that shows how to start TradeStation from download to what you're displaying today? Not specifically, I would think, a lot of the times your account representative or the person that actually opened up the account for you should have communicated this to you. It should have told you, hey, here you go to download the software. And that's something that I would assume everybody has gone through. So I don't have a video that goes from download to installation to where we are, although, we could probably create one, but I'm sorry that you didn't get, maybe the clear information on that, WD. Where can I find the syllabus SP for the platforms? This is a question from Stephen. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Stephen. SP for the platform syllabus. Please let me know what you mean by that. I'm curious now. Thank you. Stephen says, yes, I've lost money using my actual account rather than the simulator. You really should not be able to automatically enter the real account simply by entering your password and hitting return. Yeah, unfortunately, when you hit return, it goes right into your live account, but be required to make an active choice to either the sim or active account. Yes, got to give I got to give you that one, Stephen. I would be more comfortable if I had to actually click on a button rather than just hitting enter. I think a lot of times we have to enter passwords in so many other different websites and platforms and whatever that we get used to just hitting return every time we type in a password. So on TradeStation, yes, hitting return takes you directly to the live account. So I can see where that could be a problem, Stephen. So thank you for your suggestion. By the way, for any feedback you have on the software, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but if you go to apps and you click on feedback, it opens up a very nice little application where you can submit comments to our product managers. These are TradeStation employees who prioritize what's going to be implemented on TradeStation. If there's something that you want to see changed, then make sure that you're using the feedback button up here, okay? Leonard, thank you so much for your comments. Stephen says, where can I find learning materials and an index to what's available? Yes, Stephen, we are currently working on developing our education. For now, we have the events page, which I think Manolo has pointed to many times. We have the getting started page and the masterclass page. So Manolo, if you're listening, please submit those 3 links again into the chat. We also, one thing that I wanted to show you, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. If you go to apps, we have one called Video Station. Where is it? Video Station. I know it's somewhere here. Here it is, Video Station. Video Station is an application you can open up right here inside of TradeStation, and it provides you recent uploads. These are the videos that have been, recently uploaded. So that's something, that you can access. Let me make this larger and see if I can. This is a web browser, so. All right, so. Oh, there we go. I just wanted to make it bigger. Okay, so this is recent uploads. By the way, this is an app inside of TradeStation that links to the videos that are on YouTube. But you can access these videos from within the platform. But I think it's valuable. So here we have recent uploads, and we have a menu here that you can use on getting started classes, platform and tools. We have masterclass content. We do 1 session every week, but if you wanted to learn a little bit about strategy elements, you can click here and see all the different strategy videos that are available. Under events, we have the Art of TradeStation series that you can take a look at, and also any third-party presentations that we've done in the past. But use Video Station as a way to get up to speed with all the different presentations that TradeStation has, okay? That's again apps and then Video Station. And you can also send an email, as Manolo is suggesting there, to education@tradestation.com for anything specific and that you are unable to find. We'll give you, we'll send you some information if you send us an email. Blade is asking, can the space between candles on any given chart be manipulated to be closer or further away from each other? For sure, yes. If you're looking at a chart, let me go here. Let me close Video Station. If you're looking at a chart, Blade, use the up arrow and down arrow key. Down compresses, up arrow expands. I find that very quick and useful, to do it on the keyboard. If you hover towards the bottom of the chart, you also find these buttons that have the same effect. Okay, so if you'd rather use your mouse, just bring your cursor down to the bottom and you have these buttons that pop up automatically, okay? Excellent. All right, so thank you so much. I think I reached the end of the questions. I wanted to make sure that I addressed every single question here. We usually open up the webinar for Q&A at the very end. Remember that we meet every Wednesday at 10 a.m. in the morning Eastern time for a getting started. So if there's any questions on functionality, make sure you join us on Wednesdays. On Tuesdays, we have masterclass session where we dive deeper in technical analysis, strategy elements, and easy language programming. You're welcome to join us there as well. All the events are posted on the events page, so make sure that you bookmark it. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see you in my next webinar. Goodbye, everyone. Great having you today.